bringing to you my greatest excitement as I now launch the dream that I've been wanting to bring to you all for such a long time. My first podcast, Slaying the Dragon by Elizabeth Allen from Empowered Alchemy, as we celebrate, commiserate, empathize with compassion, raw, wild and real journeys of our soul struggling to get through this human life on Mother Earth during the times of confluence and change. But you know that you have the tools to navigate your highest self-purpose. You know that you are now bringing towards you self-care as you now have the ascension strategies in place to own and honor your own truth and share your story with others, to give them the courage and the strength to know that if you can share one tool with someone else, you are making their day so much easier and so much more rewarding. Hi, Amy. I'm so excited to welcome you to my podcast channel, Slaying the Dragon with Elizabeth Allen from Empowered Alchemy. Welcome. Thank you for coming today. This chat is raw, wild, and real. It's unedited. So anything that you say it's perfectly okay. When our life falls apart, it gets messy and it's not pretty. So language or any negative emotions may be triggered as a result of this conversation. And if we feel that we're needing to hold safe space, are you okay if I just take you through some grounding at any time through the process to just hold balance so we can continue our conversation?
Of course, absolutely.
And yeah, we can be triggered when we hear other people's emotional stories, and that's what this is about. I just felt called into action as a life coach, and that's how I met you, coming to me for a Reiki session we were talking about the other night, and that's actually led you to really a huge chapter that's evolved so quickly. So your world didn't really fall apart, Amy, did it? It actually began to fall together. Would you love to share that story of where you were, I think, when you were called into action, when your life was, you were questioning your happiness, your role, your self-worth. You felt like your energies were just not yours. You were smashed, you were overwhelmed. And you rang me at Empowered Alchemy, reaching out for help. And you were really in a big state of overwhelm at that point, weren't you? Do you want to share that story on your call to action when your world fell apart, when you heard the callings that things were not okay and you didn't know what to do about it at that point? Let's start with that.
Absolutely. So in 2016, I was diagnosed with Hashimotos Thyroiditis. So that's a condition with the thyroid that is underactive. So that was stemmed by my third pregnancy, and it led me into a spiral.
Yeah.
I was anxious, I became depressed, I was having panic attacks, and it was all through the dysfunction of the thyroid gland, which also really affects our emotion and our hormones, which is, with all that all together, it wasn't making me feel very good. So I got to a point where I was trying to holistically heal, as I was told I was going to be on medications for life, and that just didn't really align with me. I just wanted to feel good. That was all that I was looking for. I'm busy. I was working full-time in a corporate job. I was very happily married with 3 kids, but my surroundings didn't match what was on the inside and what I was feeling. So I took action and started doing a lot of research. I started reading a lot of books, and that led me to Google Reiki. And Reiki, that was in the area, which led me to your page straight away. So I took action. I'm a very intuitive person. Even when I was feeling blocked and unaligned, I knew that I needed just to push forward with what I felt I needed. Thankfully, I had the support around me. So my hubby was very supportive and just going, like, pushing me just to do whatever I needed to do.
Mm.
At that stage, we spoke, we had a catch up, we spoke for quite a while that night, and it led me to do the breakthrough therapy with you for 10 hours. That took me a long time to actually try and decide, because I had a lot of money limiting beliefs, and I wasn't empowered enough to financially invest in myself. I was too worried about looking after everybody else. And that's honestly probably what led me to where I was at that point. Too busy worrying about everybody else and not feeding into myself.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah.
a feminine thing to do, isn't it? It's very much the female.
Yes.
You know, I think a lot of women step
carer.
into this. We're the natural nurturers. We've got to be careful not to become the rescuers and do it for everybody else without giving any enough self-care and enough self-worth back home to us. We lose ourselves giving to everybody else, making sure that everyone's safe and well and nurtured. So how did you navigate that part when you felt exhausted, low self-worth, lack of even the ability to make the decision for you to invest in you was a massive decision you just mentioned?
Absolutely. It took me a while, as I said, to decide. And it was actually the push of my husband just to say, you've got to do whatever you've got to do. Don't worry about it. We'll handle it. Like, I was always stuck in that limiting belief and lack of. That's, from childhood. I later discovered that later on, but that was years down the track, and trying to heal that to step into abundance where we move forward. And and it's hard work to try and put yourself first when you don't really do that and haven't really done that for a really long time. I was married and very young. I had children very young. So by the time I was 22, I was married with a child and a mortgage. So when you think of it like that, that's a great accomplishment. Don't get me wrong, but we're always
also a great burden and a lot of overwhelm.
Yes, absolutely, and a lot of stress to try and keep that up and have that stability.
And did you have the support from your family at that time as well?
Absolutely. Like, I always had the support. I grew up very with a great childhood, to be honest. We didn't have a lot, but we had each other, and that's what we grew up believing. And it's still like that to this day. But I think it was very we had what we needed and not anything more. So it was always that lack of mentality that you grow up with that you take into your adulthood as well, which is very limiting in your mindset, which is what we learn along the way. It's the lessons of life, So, but yeah, so when I invested and put myself first, stopped people pleasing to try and, really focus on going inward and also aligning with values and discovering my own values was a massive game changer for me.
So what's your number one value? What's your most important value?
Love.
I don't believe love is a value.
Yeah.
Shoot me now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of life coaches out there that will argue with me.
Yes.
I believe personally that love is not a value. I believe love is a state. Correct. So let's park love over there to the right or to the left, whichever way you're looking at it.
Yeah.
Because I believe if you have all of your values aligned and you
Yes.
communicate them in a positive way to bring towards
Yes.
you what it is you want,
Yeah.
you will feel love. You will attract love. You will be
absolutely.
love.
Absolutely.
So I don't believe love is the value. I believe
Love,
it's a state. And I think everybody wants to attain love, but nobody knows how to get it. So let's unpack love. And what's your other values? Let's unpack that first before we go to the next stage, because that might open up a can of worms.
My first value, I'm actually looking through my values that I wrote down in my journal while I was with you. I've got that in front of me.
Well done,
my
Amy.
first one
I'm proud of
was
you.
Freedom. Freedom was one
Now
of my
that
first
is a
values.
value.
Yes.
What does freedom mean to you?
Free will.
Good.
It's empowerment. Stepping into my own self. Integrity.
Integrity is another value.
Yes. Yeah. But I feel like with independence.
Independence is a separate value as well.
Yeah, but I feel like for me, that is all entwined under the umbrella of that freedom. That
you may be getting messy.
Yep.
It's great to have freedom and to have free will, the freedom to choose.
Yes.
Equanimity.
Yes.
A sovereignty. The power over your own physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being and choices. I think that's freedom. The ability to be able to move, to go forward, to stay, to do what you want to do, in alignment to your values and human rights and what's aligned to you. So freedom is that. But when we have that, integrity is a separate value.
Yes.
I believe, because I believe integrity is to hold your belief system in place. And it doesn't matter what location you're at or situation you're at or under pressure. When you have integrity, you're true to yourself, your own truth from the inside out in all situations.
Correct.
You don't become one person with one situation, another person with another situation. We can, we leave work at work, but we still have our own sense of knowing who we are with our own soul. Yeah, that's integrity, I think, for me.
Yeah.
So then independence is again another value. So I didn't be aligning your values today, but that's okay. And so independence is your right to choose and to know that you're not being codependent. When you first came to see me, you may have been feeling aspects of codependence, that you needed to make everyone else happy, or other people needed to make you happy, or you lost yourself in the relationships of being a mother, being a wife, being a daughter, being a sister, being a colleague, being an employee, being in charge. All of these roles we can lose ourselves in.
Yeah.
When we come home and we really own who we are, and we embrace our freedom and our freedom to choose, and we have integrity, we feel an independence. So you can step into making decisions for yourself because you are aligned.
Of course. And that's why I feel like for me, that falls under that freedom umbrella.
Beautiful. Okay. I love that. And so what are your other values? Because we really shouldn't have any more than 5 values.
Correct. Yeah.
Because they become messy and confusing.
Yes.
So what's your next value?
Spirituality is a big one for me now. It wasn't so much then, but that's something that I really honor.
What is it with spirituality that is important to you today?
I think more so with like the personal growth, compassion, peace, wisdom, inner harmony, alignment, abundance. I feel like all these things fall under that for me. And meaningful work. I've worked in corporate for so long, and I was forced out of the corporate world through COVID. And, my whole life fell together once that happened.
You love that or what?
It's incredible, to be
The
honest.
journey that you've been on is
Yes.
amazing, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah, it's
So is your
insane.
spirituality a sense of inner faith and hope and
Absolutely.
a belief that there's a higher source or a higher
Correct.
life force?
Yes.
And I mean, we can use the term God, or we can use the term universal life force, or
I do use
power of-
universe.
yeah. And I think they're one and the same. It depends on your own.
Absolutely. Everyone's different.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own belief, but I feel like it
So
is
when you have that connection to God or to the universal life force, and you have that feeling, does that make you feel supported?
Absolutely.
So you're not on your own anymore. You're feeling that there's a divine guidance.
And it's not even presence.
Ah.
It's within. And you have to dig
You're not
deep
looking
for that.
outside help or support.
Definitely not. It's all within. And I was always looking for external answers to whatever I was trying to suss out, or whatever I was going through.
To you
Correct.
inside.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And it was always there. It just got lost along the way.
Do you
Had
love
to
that
re-find
or what?
it. It's
That's
crazy.
beautiful. And I love the way
Yes.
you've even got clarity to spirituality, so that people,
For sure.
because I think this is helping people watching, your podcast, is that you're helping them get clarity for their values when we're unpacking it a little bit. So this is great. Go on. I love this. I love working with people like you. Great. That growth mindset, isn't that interesting? Because that's also what brought you to me, and how quickly you grew as a result of doing your own work, and you embraced it 100%. You went, I don't need Reiki. Well, I need Reiki, but I need more than Reiki. So at that point, when you were in your first consultation with me, and like we counted back, that's like 3 years ago, I think now, isn't it?
Yeah, 2018.
Wow.
So March 2018.
Wow. So that's actually nearly 5 years ago.
It's a long time.
No, I must be getting old.
It's time flies, right? But I always go back to that point of where my journey started.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, because
it's a bit of return to base, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It's come full circle. It's just something that has always stuck with me, and it really did hold a piece of me and my journey to from that very beginning, on how I started the personal development and the personal growth throughout, even to today. Like, you never stop learning. You never stop growing. You just got to keep
and you don't want to now either, do you?
Definitely not. And that's honestly my motto for life, is never stop learning, never stop growing.
And to have a growth mindset is just so powerful, isn't it? Because
absolutely,
when you feel stuck, you know that you've stopped growing. The water becomes stagnant, and that's where disease and illness happens. And you, with your thyroid Hashimoto's problem, so you know what that's like. And if you're not communicating and moving forward and clearing with truth and honesty your values and aligning your voice to what it is you want to bring towards you, do you notice that you still get blocks in your throat, or it affects your voice?
So I never got that Reiki with you. So I ended up becoming
clients that have done that.
I ended up becoming a Reiki master myself.
I think we triage it to, and people self-regulate and self-diagnose. But I can see that that's not necessarily what it is you need. It may be, and we said we're going to give you that, when I see you next. So
well, but the thing is, that led me on a different journey for myself, when I was trying to, I was noticing the blockages and, you know, the stagnant energy within my own body on my journey. I ended up, you know, doing my Reiki masters and just learning more. And I didn't do that for anybody else but myself. Now is a different story. I'm able to share that.
Yeah,
absolutely. Everything that I ever did in the last, say, 7 years has been purely for myself. And
but I
now
think that makes you a better healer, Amy, because this is your own journey. It's almost
absolutely.
I call that like the Chiron curse, if you like. And Chiron is the planet of being the wounded healer. And when we are coming with our own wounds, instead of becoming and staying the victim, we actually step into the arena of bringing healing to ourselves, and through our own healing process, we get a passion to want to bring healing to humanity, and it becomes our sole purpose, doesn't it? And it's now your passion, isn't it?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Do you want
amongst
to
many.
talk us through exactly that your story and the way you grew through that was just phenomenal. Like, you know, your growth was just like exponential. When I said, "Are you ready to play 100%?" in the beginning, you weren't. You were scared and overwhelmed, and
I was not going to half-ass anything. I wanted to go all in. And if we're going to do something, I'm a typical Capricorn. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do things, you know, the way that it needs to be done, not just, you know, dip my toes in. I went all in.
And you build firm foundations, which is a very Capricorn thing to do, and without being stuck at the same time. So you're really a highly evolved Capricorn now. So and a great inspiration to everybody that comes into your life through your new business and new ventures. Let's go back before we unpack this stage. I feel like there's a few gaps that I want to fill in before we move forward.
Sure.
Because it wasn't that easy, and it wasn't that, you know, it was messy.
No, it was really so messy. It was really messy.
There were times when you fell apart, you cried, "I can't do this." I really, and you couldn't breathe.
Yeah. I was full of fear. And that was really limiting me and holding me back from a lot of things. Once I worked with you, I did a lot of workshops. I did a lot of personal development things, just a lot of reading, a lot of self-education on how I could just keep the momentum going. So I spent a solid year kind of doing that. At the same time, helping, you know, trying to work on my health and get not only mentally healthy, but like physically healthy with my thyroid and all of that, you know, all of that was going on at the same time. And then in 2020, right before COVID, I became a meditation teacher.
Fantastic. So, congratulations, darling.
Thank you.
That was one of your goals when you started seeing me, that you wanted to do that. Yeah.
Yes, I did want to do that because I wanted to learn how to meditate properly, because my mind was always overthinking. My mind was always wondering. I could not bring everything in and center. So I did that training with actually fell into my lap. My good friend that I was working with in my corporate job opened a meditation college randomly. I was her first student. I was like, we did everything together, really, because then as soon as I became qualified, I became a teacher for her college. Fantastic. So that was the first, and I was thrown into that, so into the deep end, but typical me, let's do it.
Do your best work under pressure, Amy.
Absolutely, and I always have. That's why I worked well in corporate.
Yeah.
But so that happened, and we were working together, both corporate and on the college, and, you know, helping her grow that quite, you know, steadily. And it came to the point where she ended up having to leave the corporate job to focus on her new college. I ended up taking over her role in corporate, and then 6 months later got made redundant. And that's when everything just kind of fell apart.
Or fall together.
But fell together at the same time, because I already had that foundation of the mindset of growth.
Yeah.
I already had like me being a teacher, I was running classes. We were in a lockdown. I was doing a lot of stuff online, supporting people, with their mental health. I became a life coach in that time. And I was just doing all the things for myself, but able to support others at the same time. Being made redundant was my biggest fear because it's already happened to me 3 times in the past. And this was the second time it happened with the same company.
No.
Which begged me to go back before COVID actually hit. So this is my story. Like, I'm like, okay, my biggest fears, I probably manifested it because I was doing so much, personal development work that my soul was dying in this, and everything
So you brought it
around me was, it was just pushing me away. And I was hating getting out of bed, hating going to work, especially because Amanda had already left and we were like good friends at work. So we were support system for each other. And it was just like, okay, then they made me redundant. Like, it was like my worst fear for my inner child that was lack of financial stability. I got a great payout, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't the point. It was that stability and, that
the security was shattered.
Security was, I was really in that, pushed me way out of my comfort zone. Yeah. But things just magically, the universe, I had to surrender.
After being made redundant, how did you cope with that period of time? Because again, overwhelmed.
Not very well.
Well, because life gets messy when our world falls apart. Did it affect your relationship with your husband, with your children, with your health?
No, because your friends? He was amazing. He's always a get it done person too. So he was lucky. His job was very stable through that COVID time. So we were in the middle of a lockdown at the stage as well. So it was full of fear. The world was full of fear. But I had to really dig deep and go within. So I sat a lot of time in meditation, using the tools that had set me up to get to this point. I did a really lot of journaling, just to figure out what my next step might be, because at that point I decided I was never going to let somebody control my career again. I was never going to let somebody dictate what I was going to do or what I wasn't.
So your values are coming to the surface of freedom and independence beautifully.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And spirituality too. So also you can see you're now stepping in, not only being aware of your values, but actually using them consciously.
And I had no choice. I had to.
That's
really
a good
dig
thing.
deep for that.
Sometimes I do believe when, with a hero's journey that, has inspired podcast, that when we're called into action and it's the initiation call, our world is falling apart or we're not happy where we are. It doesn't often just happen. If we go back, and life is always easier in hindsight, but if we go back, we can see the signs and the symbols and the messages and the guidance. And if we were aware of our world around us and seeing and hearing and actually listening and taking action and positively that time out, that quiet space, is when we often have time to process. We get too busy and we don't have time to process. We're just in survival mode with the amygdala operating over time. Got to do this, got to do this, got to be this, got to have, and the have to, and the shoulds and the be, and when we bring it back home into our own space and stop being the rescuer and start saying, well, look, you know what, how about we do this tomorrow, or we learn to say no, or we measure our time, so that we start holding ourselves as a safe vessel and everybody in a safe container. And I feel like that whole safe space, and with that you can breathe, you can think, and there's the space in between, the quietness in between is often where you find the answers. And is that where meditation helped you in your connection to spirituality?
100%.
And journaling, you actually wrote it through. Fantastic.
feel like you know, I'm quite a powerful manifester because I do write everything down, and everything, even to the journals. I started journaling properly again in maybe 2018.
Mhm.
So I was, I've always written everything down. Funnily enough, everything that I've written down has always come into my life, which is amazing. But because I don't focus on it, I just write it and then I forget about it. Because I found that it was helping with my anxiety, having everything going crazy in my head. Even through a meditation, I was trying to focus, but a million things I'm thinking about. So when I wrote it down and put it on paper, it came out of my brain. And it
That's
was
right.
crazy. That's how it just kind of unfolded for me.
Yeah.
And I found comfort in that.
Good.
And when I look back now on, hundreds of journals, like I was journaling almost daily, especially through those hard times, I need to unpack. Sometimes, I've always got someone to talk to, but sometimes I just need to write.
Yeah.
And it was empowering for me
And going through
because
your own process and internalizing your own process, unpacking your own thoughts and what's happening, how it makes you feel.
Absolutely.
Did you get clarity with that? That gave you like the clarity to help know what the next step was?
Absolutely. Like I didn't know, I do a lot of free writing, so I didn't know sometimes I'm like, okay, I need to journal today. I don't know what's going to come out on the paper, but then an hour later, I'm like writing 10 pages and it's like, whoa, okay, I
This is
needed
a great book by
to get
Amy
that out of my
Neufeldt.
system. But yeah, so after that, like my husband was like, take 6 months off, be a stay-at-home mom for once, because I'd always been in that hustle mode. And by this time, I'd had 3 kids. My youngest was still probably about 3 years old at that time. So, but it didn't last long because everything just happened, like probably a month or two later, where and I always had the meditation teaching, so I always had that as my little side hustle. That started to grow organically because I had more time to focus on it. And I was, you know, guiding and mentoring a lot of students through the college at that time. So that freed up a lot of time for me to pour into that passion. And yeah, probably that was in the September. And then in the November, Amanda and I, the one that does, I worked with corporate. We were doing, the college together, pretty much she had another couple of teachers doing it with her as well. And we were having actually pedicures. We decided to catch up and do in person. And she just asked me one day, what do you think about colonics? And then I was like, I love colonics. I've been doing colonics for a while because I was trying to heal my thyroid. And when you have an autoimmune system disease, all disease stems from the gut. So that was my root cause of what I was trying to heal. And she didn't actually know that. She was just inspired through a meditation and download.
Wow.
Yeah,
guided, being divinely guided.
Absolutely. She's very good at surrendering and trusting her guides.
That's amazing. That's wonderful.
It is insane.
Because you don't hear that very often where people
not at all. Because when she said it, colonics are usually such a taboo thing. Everyone keeps it quiet. Everyone keeps it like don't hush. So when she said it, I was quite open.
We're not allowed to talk about anything that goes into us or out of us.
Literally,
on any level, really.
My world is different these days. But
all of the good subjects and conversations are like taboo.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not allowed to talk about sex, politics, or religion. And to be honest, they're the only ones that I would prefer to talk about.
That's the only one thing people want to know about, right? So,
and we don't have to agree either. That's the good thing. We can
not at all. And that's the thing. Yeah, absolutely.
And we can, when you have an open mind, we can explore it. and just see
Correct.
it from another person's perspective. And I think that's
Yes.
a healthy thing. So
Absolutely, because you learn. You
well,
learn more.
and that's that part of the growth mindset, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
It's all about learning.
100%.
And it's all about
how did you then go to the
choosing.
next stage with the colonics business?
So
Because that's
she
where
just
you're in
said to
now,
me
isn't it?
that at that moment, she said, "Do you want to open a clinic?" And I said, "Hell yeah." And we just did
Just
it.
like that. So you were in independence, your values were aligned.
So
you didn't
we were
consult your
like,
husband.
you know, my motto of life, if it's not an F yes, it's an F no. And
I
that
love
is
that.
what I go by. So when she said that, and everything in me is like, hell yeah, I'm like, okay, let's roll with this. So within 6 weeks, we had found someone to train us. We had started the course. We had invested a lot of money to do it as well. So I was letting go of that fear of that,
But you'd received
spending.
the payout from your redundancy.
Absolutely. And
it was a gift.
Absolutely. So that's how I had to see it, right? Like, okay, my husband's given me, this leeway to do whatever I want in the next 6 months. And I'm not going back to corporate world. So what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And that's just how it unfolded. And if you asked me 4 years ago what I was going to be doing today, I would have probably said, working with the same company that I was with for 10 years prior to that. So it's
and
crazy.
Now, would you change any part of your life today?
Absolutely not. Like all the trials.
Life?
No, definitely not. I can't remember my old corporate life because I lived so abundantly today in so many different ways. We just make shit happen. Like I'm sorry, like physically.
But what a name! That's a great logo for the Colonics company. We make shit happen. I love that.
Honestly, but for ourselves
I
as
think
well.
you need to have that on your wall behind you.
Literally,
and
literally.
own it. It needs
Absolutely.
to be a graphic and probably trademark it, because this is fabulous, And now we're live on YouTube. You've got to be quick and get it in before someone beats you to the punch. Let me know if you want me to slow this going live on YouTube down.
No, not at all.
With the registration for you for your trademark. You've got to do it, baby.
How funny.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
I love the energy and the whole passion behind it, because
it was insane.
So aligned.
Yes. And within 6 months, we had opened a clinic. We were fully trained. We got a second training as well. So we were trained in multiple different colonic systems. We have a beautiful mentor in Melbourne. She's now relocated to Queensland, but she came down. She helped us, do our training. And it's insane the way it just folded out. In the meantime, we were doing so much personal development work as well, because you don't ever want to stop growing, right? So we were doing all these trainings and workshops, and even just little things, that we were aligning with, that we needed to fill our own cup with. But I feel like, and I honestly feel like, the colonics were helping clean our system, that it give us so much more clarity and downloads, because we were still doing our personal practices as well as working on our health, well-being, not only physical but mental as well. And it's all aligned. And that's why the passion comes in. Yeah. It's crazy. Like, it's insane. It blows my mind to even talk about it and say it out loud. Did that really happen? Like, we're living our best lives. We're helping people every single day. Community is a massive thing for both of us as well. Amanda and I had worked for corporate for such a long time together, and we so easily transitioned into this line of work and, the space of personal development as well. We do everything kind of together. So it's been amazing in that sense that we always had each other to help and learn and, lean on, even in really testing times, we've both been through it. And that's how we can support our clients and stuff as well. So,
and that's a powerful place to come from, isn't it?
absolutely. And I wouldn't be here if I didn't have the blessing of a thyroid disease back in 2000.
And now you even see your thyroid disease as a blessing. It's given you a gift.
Absolutely.
And so now,
Yes.
how is your thyroid and you know, the Hashimotos and
It is very stable. I haven't had a flare in probably 2.5 years. So that is amazing, considering I could not get out of bed in the morning. It was the fatigue, the joint pain. Anyone with an autoimmune system disease knows how painful it can actually be, both physically but mentally as well. It really takes a toll on not only yourself, but your family and your loved ones and your friends. And, you know, you become distant and you lose yourself. You really do end up spiraling, which is where I got to rock bottom, that I had to crawl my way out of.
But you got out of it using your own resources. You reached out for help because you knew you needed that spiritual life force, that light, that you needed to hold, you needed someone to hold on to help you come out. And,
well,
And
absolutely.
it wasn't just an overnight transition, was it?
Definitely not. Definitely not. And it still is a journey.
It's like the initiation journey, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you still feel at times that you're on initiation, or here's a challenge, just a test?
Absolutely. Every day.
And how do you feel with that now? Do you come from a negative mindset that, oh no, here it goes again, shit keeps happening, or
literally
another one, shit keeps happening, or stop shit from keep happening?
Absolutely. Well, I do feel like I come from a place of gratitude now. So I have a different perspective on anything that crosses my path.
So when you have an obstacle or a challenge, or things are not going according to plan, because that's life, isn't it? What's your mindset? How do you deal with that today?
I ground myself. I go out in nature.
For the people watching that don't know how to do that or unsure, what does grounding mean to you, and how do you do it?
For me, I go out into nature. I get some sunshine or some rain, whatever we've got at the time. I take my shoes and socks off. I put my feet into the earth. I really visualize roots from my body going into the ground and Mother Earth. And I get back to everything holistic. So I'll go back to meditation. I'll drink green juice or something that comes from, like, eat more of a plant-based diet. I'm not vegan or anything, but I do believe in like that balance of 80-20, even though I am a colon hydrotherapist, and I'm a gut health nutritionalist. But I feel like for mentality, you need
I think
that
everybody
balance.
has a different physiology that needs
Absolutely.
different foods. Some like raw, some need cooked. And I think if we go into the Vedic and, foods, then, there's a lot more than just a fad. And I think we've got to stay away from fads. We've got to stay away from belief systems, because what they think is perfect 1 week or 1 year can be absolutely detrimental. And they say, oh, don't do this, or you've got to do this. I mean, it's only a few years ago they said, that anyone that was allergic to dairy foods should drink soy milk. And my son was allergic to dairy foods. And so, that was the best thing to have. And that was the awareness at the time. So I thought it was a great idea to when I finished weaning him, to put him onto soy milk, because that was plant-based, it was healthy. But now we read so much like, boo-hoo, oh my God, I told my son because I followed a fad. Like, well, it wasn't a fad. I thought I was doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
But I think we've got to have awareness, and I think it comes back to sovereignty and our own equanimity, our own independence, our own freedom, the values that you choose. We've got to listen to our own internal voice to be able to have time to feel what is of right action, what is of right heart.
What feels good for
what
you.
What feels right for us. Because what's right for me may not be right for you.
Absolutely.
And we need to stay away from judgment and assumption.
Yeah.
Because I think when we have the assumption or our belief system has to be right, so everyone else has to be wrong, I'm really concerned that that's something that doesn't sit with me. I feel like we need to create that safe container and make sure that our vessel is safe, that we, and I think, you know, we live a journey of continual new information or even information overload.
Of course.
And how do we sort through that?
You go with your gut feeling. you
See, again, it all
that's the
goes
best
back to
way
the
that I
gut.
can advise my
But it
clients.
does. You are in
You
the
go
perfect
internal.
job.
You listen to your gut.
Yeah,
If
but
your
that's
gut's telling
wonderful.
you, no, that's not for me, your gut physically can talk to you.
100%.
And you know whether, you know, something doesn't feel good. And that's honestly what I advise on my clients. Do what feels good.
Yeah.
You know, and
get out of your head and drop into your gut.
Absolutely.
And remember to breathe into your gut or into your belly. Yeah, 100%.
Belly breaths. Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Big belly breaths. And that's something like, I guess the best part of my job is that I can incorporate everything that I've learned, not only as a colon hydrotherapist or a gut health nutritionalist, but as a meditation teacher, as an empowerment coach.
That's
a
right.
life coach, as
bringing
a
the physicality and the mental, the emotional, the spiritual together into one beautiful container.
Definitely. It is my passion to teach people to live from healthy from the inside out, but to also have a huge focus on mind, body, soul. And that sounds so cliche, but it's all connected.
It's holistic. It's all connected.
Absolutely.
And I think we are connected, you know, through, you know, like if you didn't reach out to that, and you could have called anybody, but you called me. So that put you on a different pathway than if you'd called somebody else. You may have taken a different pathway. And I think there is that fate, and coming back to spirituality, it's the divine guidance, isn't it? Or just coming back to that quiet space to follow your own light, listen to your own gut.
Exactly. I feel like there's so much pressure on you know, trying to do the right thing and trying to, you know, and it's a lot of pressure, even anxiety around trying to do what's best for yourself. But you already know the answers are within you. You just have to sit still enough to listen.
What do they say? The answer is always in the question.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's the truth, isn't it? Yes. Because you know the answer. For you to ask the question, you already know the answer.
Correct. But you're looking externally, and we're all guilty for it.
Oh,
but like 100%. When you learn and have a different awareness, you'll always find what's best. Helicopter flying over me, sorry.
It's all right. Life goes on around us, doesn't matter where we are.
I'm focused.
100%. But you know, we have to recognize. I remember once I was doing a meditation class in shaman clothes. Great name for a shaman, isn't it? But yeah, in shaman clothes in Sweeten Grange type thing, you know, near Narellan. And we were all in this beautiful safe place in this beautiful, quiet, gorgeous room. And then a motorbike started revving up outside, and he just went on and on and on. And we looked at it, oh my God. And we just thought, how are we going to be able to get through this? But I could actually help bring that sound inside. Beautiful. And everybody felt safe. And the more he revved outside, the quieter our minds got inside. And that separation of stepping away from what we can't control was such, well, it actually led to my art medicine classes that I started holding. And I knew I didn't want to hold them in the normal traditional place. So I was called into action with Steve Wisby from Upstairs Freds when we had a chat and shared some ideas, and he was excited at that point. And so, you know, we would be holding meditation and sound healing and painting with Steve's big loud voice and energy, and everyone laughing and talking, or everything was happening around us. But people would actually focus in so much that they didn't even hear it. Or it would sometimes come in and out.
It's
So
improvisation.
our journey is a powerful path to just walk down, and it's a winding path, isn't it? It's not a
Absolutely.
straight road. We don't just go
Definitely
from
not.
A to B. We go from, up over the hills and down dales and
Mhm.
around, and we stop and we rest, and it's like the river. You get in the rapids and you go hard and fast, or,
Absolutely.
have you ever just floated in a river like that just to see with trust where it takes you?
I feel like it's taken a lot of inner work for me to surrender and trust, because
Ah,
I am very much a control freak, and self-confessed. But it's taken a really long time for me to just let go, physically, mentally, just let go. And in that space, magic is created. So
I
that's what
love that. You
I
need to write that
always
down.
remind myself, like magic is
Yeah,
created in the beauty of surrender. And
100%.
yeah, and it's been insane, but it's a daily, progress on trying to keep letting go and not having those
Well, that's part
control
of your
tendencies.
initiation, and I think that's life, isn't it? When we
Yes,
look at life as the
absolutely.
greatest
Yeah,
initiation, and it's a soul journey
for
through the
sure.
wisdom of the great mystery. We haven't done this before in our physical ego. Our
Yeah,
soul may have, but that
yeah.
could be lifetimes ago or through the ancestral family tree. We don't we
Hmm.
don't know where our soul connection really goes
Yes.
until we go into that space, and we get the deja vu moments or the moments of
Hmm.
fear and anxiety. But when we step into surrender and accept the interconnectedness of the great mystery, it's a true joy, isn't it, to trust?
Absolutely. And it's full of triggers as well.
Oh,
But
absolutely. And it's to
you
know when to pull
learn.
back in and be in quiet space and just
Yes.
allow it to be.
Yeah. It's incredible to be here when you are in that. And it takes a lot to let go. But once you hit that, you crave that. And
Well, we don't know what the other tests and the other part of the initiation is
definitely
either,
not.
you know.
Definitely not.
Like
You don't
spirit
know
may
what's
have.
coming.
Oh, and even though I do this work, it doesn't mean I don't get the challenges like you have found.
Absolutely.
You find sometimes now you've stepped into this that you often can feel that you get more challenges,
Um,
but you handled them better.
I feel like they're probably not challenges because I have a different perspective on everything. So if I'm really challenged, it'll be something that is really, really out of my control.
And
So
how do you
say
feel as a Capricorn with something out of your control? Can I ask that
very
question?
unaligned.
Exactly. I thought I'd share that.
But
And that brings us back home to our humanness and our reality, doesn't
absolutely.
it?
And then
With a
you
bang.
surrender.
Yeah,
You have to
100%.
really just trust that everything, surrender and trust. That's just something that goes over my head a lot, especially when you're running a wellness clinic. And things don't, or sometimes shit hits the fan, like,
There's a lot of
and
good sayings
you
that
have
go
to
with your
flow.
colonics business, isn't
Correct. But you have no choice. You have to flow with it. You never know what's going to come. You never know what's going to happen. Every single day is different. Every client is different. So in that space, we just try to hold the sacred space and really hold that safe space and flow. And
it?
that's the best thing that we can do. As and that's a good life lesson as well, not only
For
within
both
your
your
career
client
and
as
work.
well as for yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And when you learn that, different awareness and to have the awareness and then to have a different perspective, I can always see things from a different view now. Whereas before I was very tunnel vision, like not being able to see from the outside. It's taken a while, but I feel like, you grow more. It's all about the elevation. It's all about the growth. It's all about, rising and elevating. And I feel like that comes down to finding your wings. And
Oh, I
that
love
is
that.
my business name from when I first started my
That's
meditations,
right. I
was I
remember.
found my wings,
That's
and
right.
everyone has them.
That's
You just got to,
beautiful, isn't it?
find them. And
I
that's
remember
how
the moment with you designing your logo when you were seeing me with your
it
first
was
breakthrough. It was like
crazy.
this breakthrough moment. And here
Yes,
you are using the same logo. It's like a deja vu moment going back
honestly.
5 years ago when I first met
And
you.
isn't it crazy that like
It's
I've
wonderful.
always been on this kind of path, like I've got like a fly tattoo, and I've had that fly tattoo for probably a good 10 years, way before, but it was always in that direction of trying to rise, trying to fly, trying to, reach for the stars, reach for the sky. And when you're stuck in rock bottom, that's what you're trying to do. And it's possible to get there. It just takes a bit of
Sometimes
work.
you just have to take that leap of faith and build your plan all the way
Absolutely.
down. If you wait till you've got everything perfect, you'll never take the action. When
Absolutely. And sometimes, the universe really pushes
it
you.
pushes you. Yeah,
And, you got to be careful what you wish for, because,
I know.
always, you never know where you're going to end up, but to surrender in that process and have that flow, you're always going to be where you're meant to be. And that can fill your heart with a lot of gratitude. I feel like, when you look back and you just reflect
And I think
and think,
hindsight is the
wow,
greatest gift, isn't it? That we can,
absolutely.
when we're going through, like a
Yeah.
fish can't see the water it swims in. And,
Mm,
we get lost in our way or
yes.
overwhelmed. And,
Yes.
so you need to just have that quiet space in nature and just sit and reflect and just,
Absolutely.
look up at the sky and just breathe in as you watch the clouds change shape. I think that's always one of my favorite
Yeah.
meditations. Is just not a thought and just allow the
Yeah.
thoughts to keep shifting.
Yeah.
We don't have to stop them, just allow them to come and go and
Yeah.
keep forming, changing shapes and patterns.
Yeah.
Kids
That's
love it. How
amazing.
old are your kids now? You had 3 and
I've got
now you've had
3
your
girls.
30. Yeah.
So my eldest is 19. My second is 14, and my youngest is 6.
And
So
how have you noticed the difference in the relationship with your children and your husband since you have done the
yeah,
work on yourself and left corporate and moved forward? And from that time with thyroid when your world was falling apart 5 years ago, so your baby was only 1 then. So this
yeah,
is a massive transformation,
yeah,
especially for her. And your oldest was only 14, so she was
yeah,
what, in year 8. So that's
yes,
a massive shift of. It's a life's journey, really, what you've done
for sure.
yeah.
I feel like I was very highly strung. I was always in a rush. I was never living in the moment or being present. Like I was always like, say I've got to go get them to get to work on time. I have to drop them off. I have to do this, do that, do this, do that, a million different things all at once. So I'm always in that hustle mode, like let's go, let's go, let's go. And then losing it as well when they're not listening or they're tired or come on, really in that high paced, kind of anxious mode.
Mm.
Whereas when I took a step back, I'm not working in corporate, everything flows a lot more. They're a lot happier because oh, don't get me wrong, I'll lose my lose it sometimes at them, but like at the same time I'm more aware of my reactions and my temperament, and everything's just scaled back to the point where I'm a lot calmer because my nervous system is a lot calmer, my adrenals are a lot calmer. Like I had crazy adrenal fatigue when I first came to see you, on borderline depression, and that's highly strung person couldn't even just relax her body. Do you know what I mean? So it's been a journey in motherhood, and as not only as a human but just as in the family dynamic. And like I've always been in a very happy, supportive marriage, but I feel that connection deepens when he is on his own journey as well, and we both elevate together. Not always at the same time, but we keep stepping up.
That's great.
And
that's
that
like the
brings us
twin
closer.
flame energy, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky
It can be
have that.
challenging, but it's so rewarding
Of course,
as well.
but we we make it work, and we're on the same page.
Fantastic. If you could say one thing or give one gift to the viewers today watching, this was fantastic talking to you today.
I loved it.
I can't believe we're coming to the end of our time, but I think we'll have you back for another chat. And if anyone has any questions, can they, type them in at the bottom of, I think, on the YouTube channel, and keep sharing it out, and through your socials and my socials and everyone else share it, because there's going to be a lot of gifts that come to a lot of people through this conversation.
I hope
if you could share one thing with everyone today, what would you say before we wrap it up?
Oh, I got asked, I celebrated my 40th birthday last week, and I got asked by a young girl that was at the gym with me, what is your words of wisdom?
Oh, good.
And I was like, okay, what is my words of wisdom for the last 40 years of my life? Never stop learning. Always choose growth. Always choose growth, because you will always elevate and shift that energy. And I think that would be probably my gift. I think that's my words of wisdom.
And it's one of your values as well. So,
absolutely.
Highest value. It's really important to honor that. I feel blessed.
Thank you so much.
So dynamic. I'm so pleased you rang me for Reiki all those years ago. I did the breakthrough with Empowered Alchemy. So I love that. And your business name now that you're working with, before we wrap up, how can people contact you? We'll get your contact details underneath, so I'll get you to send them to me. If there's any questions that anyone wants to write down, they can share them through our page, or they could contact you with information for the Colonics.
Yes.
And where are you located, Amy?
I'm located at Wedderburn, which is 10 minutes.
And what's the name of the company that you're working with that you are?
Macarthur Colonics.
Beautiful.
So I'm there a lot and it's amazing, and we do a lot of magic happens out there. We're based on 20 acres, so beautiful. There's a lot of land. It's very peaceful, very tranquil, and we love it there. So.
I love that. I'll have to come out and visit one day.
Absolutely. We would love to have you.
Thank you so much. Lots of love. And I know we'll chat soon. Thank you.
Absolutely. See ya.
Bye-bye. Bye. I am so honored to walk beside you as we support each other in connection and collaboration in our community.